It's hip hop. Hip hop will never die.
What's good, everybody? We are back with another episode of the Fresh Podcast with one of my favorite people in the world.
The big dog, Doe Fresh to Dine.
And my name is Sean. It's something we kind of wanted to talk about for a while. And it's something that most people can't touch. You can't touch it.
Nope.
Most of the time, you can't see it.
Yep.
And people, the wind, there's many things that we can't really see or touch or maybe feel. But it is probably, especially now, one of the most important things in my life. And that's God.
That's God, man. The reason why I'm here, the reason why you here, the reason why anybody that's seeing this right now is here. It's the real GOAT. G-O-D.
The greatest to ever do it, that will ever do it.
Believe that.
Yeah. And I remember struggling, years ago. I was brought up in church. I remember sleeping through a lot of church, because younger kids, we're taken to church. But the one thing that I am so thankful for, and we all understand that, like, we're people, right? As a parent, I'm just a man. We get put into the roles and positions, and I remember being at church. But I am so thankful that my mom and dad, would take me to church, because I hated it as a kid, because we don't understand it, and if it's not fun or active. But it was one of the greatest introductions to something that has changed my life, and still to this day is unbelievable that I'm still here.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I was the same way as a kid. I didn't like going to church. As a kid, all you want to do is, play, watch cartoons, play with your toys or whatever.
I was a big sleeper.
But yeah, but I will say I think it's very important. It was very important, and I appreciate my mother, to this day, and my father, but mainly my mother. She was the one that always would take us to church, and of course, you don't understand it like you said as a kid. Mm-hmm. You just want to get it over with, but you always remember you might not remember the sermon to the T, but you're gonna remember just the vibe that you get from church, and it's almost like your parents taking you to church or whatever religion you believe in. It kind of gives you something to believe in, just that. Because just think about that. What's life if you don't believe in anything? Like, I don't know. It just seems kind of weird to me. And I understand. I got a homeboy. I hadn't talked to him in a long time, but he's kind of like a atheist, and it's like, man, I'm like, how does that? It doesn't sit right with me for somebody to live life. I couldn't imagine anyway. I can just speak for myself. I couldn't imagine living life and not believing anything outside of just this life right here.
That we're at the pinnacle of rich people or positions or power. That's it.
That's it.
Like, there's nothing else. Like we're all just kind of hatched, like, randomly, like chicken eggs.
Yeah.
And then we all just kind of, like, figure it out. Like, that's life.
And then when you just think about the world and how everything works, everything goes, like, together. Everything, the hot and cold, just how this world was designed. It's like, it's no way that this was we just appeared out of thin air or whatever they say, the Big Bang Theory.
I remember hearing that, and I immediately went, I don't think anything's ever blew up and anything good's come out of it.
Nah. like something just blow up and it become this perfect where we are. Like, come on, man. I just, me personally, I just feel like, man, it's gotta be a higher power. I know. Yeah. Like, and it's like, without knowing, and that's the definition
of
feeling,
faith, right?
Basically.
So when we talk about atheists, I've met, a few people in my life who don't believe in anything or believe in Scientology, like a lot of different things. And I get it. Like, it's not my job to convince you different. The Bible is there. But the one thing that I have a hard time wrapping my head around is that anybody would believe, like you said, that there's nothing except for just be a good person. And I always question and I always go, if there's nothing, what are you basing being a good person off of? Right? What makes you think you have to be good if you don't believe in God? Right? I mean, nobody's going to judge you. We're all going to just end up in the ground. Well, I just want to be a good person. My question is why? And where do you get that law from? Or where do you get that mentality from? It has to be from the Bible, right?
That's a good question, yeah.
Yeah. So, while I don't understand it, it doesn't mean that I can't at least accept and love somebody. Somebody goes, well, you have to do this and change their. Man, look, I don't remember Jesus walking around, at least in the Bible, with a megaphone, yelling at people as they pass by, talking about hell's dark and, doing all this. And I think religion versus actually being a Christian or being, of a religious faith, it's just they're not the same.
Yeah, and I never could rock with people like that. That like just kind of push it on people. Whatever you believe in, that's what you believe in. Now, I do feel like you have a duty to spread the word. As they would say, whatever you believe in,
spread
that's
the word,
cool.
not push the word.
But
right?
yeah, that's one thing to kind of invite somebody. But then if they don't take you up on your invitation, maybe even mention it here or there. But to just be pushing that, I don't like that, especially when it comes from a lot of times the people that are pushing it ain't living right. So it's like, we all sinners, but I mean, it's like, damn, at least be, people want to see actions. If you look like a huge hypocrite and you keep pushing this, how religious you are, and you see a person, you like, man, they be talking about each other, lying, cheating, doing the same stuff that, everybody else is doing. But it's like, man, you're pushing this faith like so heavy on everybody. And I just feel like
and we're all screwed up.
Yeah, we all are sinners, man. That's for sure.
Let me ask you this, and this is something I come to grips with some years back. I have family that's been, ministers, has been in church, and the one thing that I think that maybe some people overlook, and I get it, when you look at a minister or a pastor or a preacher, and they are kind of looked as being more than holy, right? Like, or as holy.
Holier than thou, as they say.
Correct. And
Yeah.
I don't know, like, to me, I don't look at another man on this planet. There's not another person that can look me in the eye and go, I am perfect. I've never done wrong. I'll call bullshit so quick because I know nobody is, right? But I hate it that anybody would put so much faith into somebody of that position of power, which you're supposed to be, and then act so surprised when they're not perfect.
Yeah, people do it all the time because people be more attached to, because you got to think, if you're a person like that, a pastor, a minister, a preacher, a pope, you're delivering the message. And sometimes people fall in love with the messenger more than they fall in love with the message itself. So when the messenger proves that they're not perfect, just like the rest of us, you see the whole following, the whole congregation be like, you see it split like the Red Sea. Like people, some people are like, oh man, I can't. You have people that literally will denounce a whole faith over what, their
one person.
Yeah,
sure.
what one person did. If it's a scandal or something comes out on that person, and it's like at the end of the day, yeah, is it disheartening? Is it heartbreaking when you hold somebody to such a high standard and you look at them as, the way, but the way is not them. They're telling you the way. The way is through God, to lead by example, but not, they struggle just like we struggle, they struggle with whatever it may be. Yeah, we people. Well, and this is a worldly world that we live in. So
you can't turn on a radio or TV without seeing something that makes you have bad thoughts.
Exactly.
No chance.
Exactly.
But again, like, I just hated that people, because you have to look at somebody, and I don't care what they're preaching, they've had bad thoughts. You can't live in this world without having bad thoughts because there's cell phones. I mean, it's everywhere. So I don't like the fact that people put so much faith and will denounce an entire religion or, just find it. And of course, you and I, we believe in Jesus Christ. And like when I read, and I am terrible, like when I kind of really want to become more of a reader, but I'm always wanting to understand it. And the Bible, man, it's not something that's easily understood, which I think is manipulated in a lot of ways. If you ever heard, you can do all things through Christ. If you want to win that medal, you can do all things through Christ. That's not what that means.
Yeah. And it's the Bible, the way it's written. I think it just for one, it's 2025. Let's be real. A lot of people just don't read. Period. As we talk about on here, short form content. People are seeing reels and shorts and all that. That's the way of the world. So to think somebody's gonna take a thick Bible and really read it all the way through for themselves, and then even if you do that, a lot of people can't comprehend it just the way it's written. You know, like I can admit
It's not
myself.
written for 2025.
Yeah, and I didn't try to read. I ain't gonna say I try to read the whole Bible, but it's sometimes I've tried to read the Bible in my life, and I'm like, man, this is, you know what I'm saying? Like I understand it a little bit, but not fully. But at the end of the day, man, you just gotta, you gotta do what you gotta do. And like me, I like you're a Christian. You would say that you're a Christian. Me, I don't really. I wouldn't say I'm of any religion. You know, I like to call myself spiritual. I have a personal relationship with God. So I got Muslim friends, I got Christian friends, I got Catholic friends. You know what I'm saying? I got, like I told you, I'm cool with people that they don't even really believe in God. I don't understand it. I don't agree with it. You know what I'm saying? And I try to invite them. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to just, disassociate myself with them. You know what I'm saying? Because you never
free will, right?
Yeah, and you never know. Like that person that doesn't believe in God today, something can happen in their life and they believe in God tomorrow. So when you just denounce them and throw them away, you know what I'm saying? You can't say you're a person of God or a person that believes in God, a believer, and you do people like that, because that's not a godly way. That's not the godly thing to do, So
The hardest thing to do, I'm sure you could admit this as well, is forgiving people that have done unforgivable things.
yeah, I agree with that.
And it's almost like,
You ever heard that saying that, actually Rick Ross, he called one of his albums is God Forgives, I Don't.
I mean,
that ain't really the godly way to be, but as people, man, sometimes we are very stubborn, and it's hard, man. People do some things to you that make you be like, bruh, I don't got nothing for you. Nothing, nada.
nah, if you're on fire, if I had to go to the bathroom, I'd hold it. But it's almost, it's sad. It really, really is.
What would you say, at what time, has there any been a point in time in your life that you were not a believer at all, or just so low on faith, it was just like, you still believed, there was still a little bit of you that believed, but you were like just really low on your faith? And if, that time, when you speak about that time, also elaborate on what made you climb out of that and restore your faith.
I'm not for sure if I can ever recall or remember if I've ever I don't believe in God. There's never been a time. I've been angry. I've been upset. I've been disappointed. I've been confused. I've been misled in believing what I thought God should be doing for me instead of what God was doing for me. But I don't ever remember walking out and going, I denounce you. You are like blasphemy, man. That's like the worst. So while I could be mad at God or mad at the fact of the positions that I'm in a world that He has little control over, because this is not His world. This is, but it's the devil's playground, man. And we do a lot of playing. We do a lot of stuff that is not right, but I don't ever remember doing that. But I've been mad. I've questioned God. You're not supposed to question, but, why did I lose my parents so early? Why was one of my best friends taken so early? Why am I here by myself? Why am I here and nobody seems like they care? Or is it me because I'm so shut off and I'm so lost? But I don't ever really feel, but I'll tell you a turning point when God started showing me, I can show you how good I can be, or I can show you how bad the devil can be. And that's an ugly picture, man.
Yeah, and like you, I never lost my faith completely, but there's been times where I'm like, and to this day, sometimes I not question if God is real, but question
why?
Yeah, like why things happen, why things are the way they are. And I don't know. The best way I can explain it is almost like, I believe in God, but a lot of religions, I feel, and that's why I say I'm more of a spiritual person, or I have a personal relationship with God, meaning I pray, meaning I believe in God. But I feel like most religions have one origin. If it's one God, then it has to be,
one origin. Sure.
Yeah, one religion, should they say. But I feel like I know man too, and I know man can manipulate, and I know man can get mad if something is not it's the exact way that they want it to be. And I think that's where a lot of these religions break off, because a lot of them have a lot of the same core beliefs for the most part. Now there is some big differences in the main ones too, but I think a lot of people just get mad and break off, because even like, all right, let's just say if you're a Christianity, you got all these different denominations, in Christianity. You have, it's differences.
180. That's probably a low number, but isn't it like 180?
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a whole lot. You got Pentecostal, Baptist, Catholic. It's a lot, But it's the same thing when you look at Islam. Same thing. You got a lot of, you got what do you call it? Sunni Islam, Shiite Muslims, the black Muslims. You know what I'm saying? It's
different divisions almost.
Different divisions. Yeah. So it's like, this happens because somebody says, you know what? Nah, that ain't right. I'm gonna take it. Like we just said,
the interpretation, right?
We have people that follow people. So if you are a person in power, it's like us. We have the Fresh Podcast. That's like me and you having a fallout, and then I say, man, I'm starting the Fresher Podcast, and then half our audience splits, and then you got half the audience like, nah, man, we still rocking with Shine and Fresh Podcast. Yeah. And then you got some of the audience is like, man, I'm rolling with Doe with the Fresher Podcast, and then somebody
the break and branch thing, right? From gangs, from friends, from family, everything breaks off. You're saying the religion's basically
it's the same.
Yeah, it's the same.
In that aspect, same thing like politicians. You got the Democrats and the Republicans. What do they say? Two wings, same bird, or something like that. So I feel like everything has a root. And for me, one thing I do know that I'm sure about is, there is a God, there's a creator, and he's all seeing, all knowing, the greatest, So
life can't be this random.
Yeah.
Can it? Like, can everything that happens, everything you see, everything you touch, everything you know, everything you've experienced, everything you smell, everything, you're telling me everything somehow works in this mysterious way perfectly. They say that we're basically running through space at like so many miles. Like if something happens catastrophic, like not that big, like we'll just float off into space. Like all this through all the science that we figured out, and people go, nah, it's not a God.
Yeah.
I'm just like, no offense, but that sounds insane.
And when you read the Bible and when you read the Quran, these holy books, man, these books was written so long ago. Man,
from people in different continents, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're not neighbors.
The revelations in them, it's like, man, the stuff that was written then is happening now, right in front of our eyes. And they didn't have, the way we connected. Like I can talk to somebody in Australia, right? You couldn't do that. Wherever you was at, that's just where you was at. So it's just I don't see how a person could just like believe like, man, we just here, we born magically, and then we just die, we go back to the dirt, and it's just over. Like
it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
As people go, well, it doesn't make sense. It's an unbelievable God. Let me tell you what makes less. Like if you think there's no God, if you think there's nothing, like no power, and we just hatch again, just into this world. Good luck. You got a mom and dad. You're gonna die. We're all gonna be in the ground, and somehow we keep circulating with new generations, new populations. The earth has been wiped out, right? But all of a sudden there's more people. We're burying each other in these grave sites. There's all this stuff that just randomly happened for thousands of years.
Nah, I ain't buying it.
Love thy neighbor, hate no one. Stay fresh.
Stay blessed.
Hip hop would never